El Cybersecurity Nation Leaders Forum ha sido posible gracias al gentil patrocinio de Código Verde, consultores de seguridad de la información. El mundo no es ciberseguro. Cámbialo. ¿Cómo? Participa en las iniciativas del Consejo Sí. Si eres experto y tienes algo que compartir con la comunidad, te ofrecemos 3 opciones. 1. Inscribe tu tema y ven a conversar en un webinar. 2. Envíanos tu artículo original e inédito. 3. Presenta tu ponencia en el Cybersecurity Nation Conference 2022. Independientemente de ser experto o no, si te interesa participar en alguno de nuestros comités, inicia tu proceso de incorporación al Cuerpo Internacional de Voluntarios del Consejo. Bienvenidas todas las nacionalidades. Explora todas estas opciones en consejosi.org/participa. El mundo no es ciberseguro. Participa. Colombia Digital, una visión de futuro, es la serie de webinars que realizaremos durante noviembre y diciembre de 2022, donde conversaremos con líderes y expertos para el intercambio de las ideas que forjarán este aspecto fundamental en la vida nacional. Siga el vínculo que le mostramos en pantalla y regístrese. Únase a la conversación. Deseamos escuchar sus puntos de vista. Daremos respuesta a los siguientes planteamientos. ¿Cómo es la Colombia digital de hoy? La visión de futuro de Colombia. ¿Qué falta hacer en ciberseguridad? Regístrese ahora para recibir el aviso oportunamente. ¿Y usted cómo visualiza una Colombia digital? El mundo necesita a 2.7 millones de nuevos profesionales en ciberseguridad y tú puedes ser uno de ellos. Conoce en el ebook Cómo iniciar tu carrera profesional en ciberseguridad los pasos que debes seguir para iniciar tu carrera en esta profesión, aunque no cuentes con experiencia ni conocimiento previo. Entra al siguiente enlace. Y hagamos juntos de este mundo uno más seguro. El Consejo Sí es una organización de voluntarios de alcance internacional y actualmente estamos convocando a quienes integrarán los comités durante el 2022. ¿Te interesaría incorporarte a nuestra organización? Para facilitar tu ingreso, hemos diseñado un proceso que inicia visitando nuestro sitio web. Puedes colaborar desde tu país en cualquiera de los siguientes comités y foros: Comité Técnico, Comité de Vinculación, Comité de Relaciones con la Industria, Comité para CIOs y CISOs, Comité de Mujeres en Seguridad, Comité del Cybersecurity Nation 2022 y Foro para el Sector Público. Te invitamos a registrarte ahora mismo e iniciar tu trayectoria en el Consejo Sí. Esperamos pronto darte la bienvenida. Inscríbete gratis y reserva tu lugar en el evento internacional de ciberseguridad en línea. Escucha y conversa con expertos de al menos 12 países. El Cybersecurity Nation Conference 2022 es el único evento que aborda este tema en 3 diferentes escalas: personal, organizacional y nacional. Inscríbete ahora, antes de que se agoten los lugares y cerremos el registro. Escucha, conversa y aprende. El Cybersecurity Nation Leaders Forum ha sido posible gracias al gentil patrocinio de Código Verde, consultores de seguridad de la información. Bienvenidos al Cybersecurity Nation Leaders Forum, el evento que presenta a los actores de talla internacional que contribuyen significativamente a la seguridad de la información y ciberseguridad. La conferencia de esta mañana, titulada Cybersecurity Skills Gap in Latin America, será presentada por Clar Rosso, CEO de ISC Cuadrada. Presento a la ponente. Clar tiene más de 2 décadas de experiencia ayudando a asociaciones profesionales globales y organismos de certificación a crecer y fortalecer el valor de sus miembros. Como CEO de ISC Cuadrada, ha establecido un marco estratégico con visión de futuro y ha fijado objetivos audaces para el futuro de la asociación. Bajo su dirección, ISC Cuadrada ha establecido un programa de diversidad, equidad e inclusión para apoyar el crecimiento de la profesión. Ha desarrollado una estrategia de defensa global para garantizar que las preocupaciones de los miembros estén representadas en un escenario global y ha ayudado a cambiar la conversación sobre la escasez de personal de seguridad de la información y ciberseguridad a una que se centre en reducir la brecha. Antes de unirse a ISC Cuadrada, Clar se desempeñó como vicepresidenta ejecutiva para la Asociación de Contadores Profesionales Certificados Internacionales. También trabajó como directora de operaciones de la Sociedad de CPA de California y la Fundación de Educación de CALPA. Cuenta con una licenciatura en Retórica y Comunicaciones de la Universidad de California, Davis, y una maestría en Educación Especial de la Universidad Estatal de San Francisco. Sin más preámbulo, bienvenidos al evento.
Hello, my name is Clar Rosso. I'm the CEO of AICPA, and it is my great pleasure to be with you today at the Cybersecure Nation Leaders Forum. I'm going to spend the next 40 to 45 minutes presenting some information. It's a story of opportunity and challenge within the cybersecurity profession. And thank goodness that cybersecurity professionals, more than any other professionals I've ever met, are always up for a good challenge. And then afterward, I am going to be happy to spend some time answering your question. And so most specifically today, what I want to talk to you about is the now infamous cybersecurity workforce gap. What is it? What do we know? What do we know both globally and in Latin America from our latest workforce study? In fact, I'll be able to share some results with you from the 2022 study that's not being released until October. And then we'll also share some best practices that we are seeing in Latin America and around the globe about how people are thinking differently about how they fill their cybersecurity needs within their organizations. So with that, I will get going. You all know that the past 2 years of all our lives have been different than anything else that we've ever experienced and really helped us to focus in on what is important and how do we think about our workforce. No business is thinking about the workforce today the same as it did 2 years ago, and cybersecurity is certainly no exception. So with that, let's get moving to the next slide. All right, let me just tell you a little bit about ISC². We are the world's largest professional association of cybersecurity professionals. We have about we are just under 200,000 active certifications globally across about 172,000 members. And as you can see, over the past 3 decades, we have been working within the profession to grow the profession and make sure that we have certifications that are fit for purpose for the needs of government, industry, and individuals. Most specifically, when we build our certifications, so obviously CISSP is the most well-known, but we work with businesses and governments, individuals representing business and governments from around the globe to ensure that the certifications that we are building are fit for purpose for the marketplace. And we update those on a regular basis. We also are more than just certification. So we're also a provider of lifelong continuing education for cybersecurity professionals. And probably one of the most important, but maybe underspoken about roles that we take within the cybersecurity profession is we give you a voice. We are your advocate globally for cybersecurity, and we give you a voice in a world that is increasing in its desire to regulate cybersecurity. So, and then of course, we stand for ethical best practices and the growth and the success of the cybersecurity profession. One of the other reasons that I am able to share such good information with you today is we are committed to an ongoing body of research that helps further the profession. So our choice has been not to be on the cutting edge of what's going on with things like quantum and cybersecurity, although you can find out about that through conference sessions and webinars, but we've really been focused on the workforce, both understanding the makeup of the workforce, understanding the needs globally we have to develop the workforce, but also understanding what are the best practices that organizations are using to grow the workforce and what is getting in the way. So I'm going to share some of those results here with you today. Very specifically, we're going to talk about the composition of the workforce and find out who's responsible for cybersecurity within your organizations. We're going to talk about what motivates and concerns cybersecurity professionals and see how they've handled unprecedented change over the past several years. We're going to identify where workforce development is going wrong and why. And I would maybe put that slightly differently. We're going to explore the great divide in how people develop their workforce. And there truly is a great divide. And then we're going to look at why we need to take a people-centric approach to solving this problem and also challenge some of the assumptions that have served us well for the past several decades in growing our cybersecurity teams, and how maybe it's time to challenge some of those assumptions to get to the size and capacity of teams that we actually need. All right, so fresh out, this is actually from our 2021 workforce day. I'm going to just go back and forth between 21 and 22. But when we looked at the cybersecurity workforce and who responded to this study, you can see that the predominance of individuals are in the IT services area, followed by financial services, a lot of cyber folk working in government, manufacturing, supply chain, consulting, healthcare, retail, and telecom. And then globally, North America does make up the vast majority of the survey respondents, but we also have good coverage in Europe and Asia Pacific, and we are growing our participation in Latin America. And we do also cross a broad number of sizes of organizations, skewing a little bit to the larger sized organizations, but that also makes sense because larger organizations are more likely to prioritize cybersecurity as an essential need for its business. So when we look at cybersecurity professionals globally, we can see good age distribution. And in fact, I would say compared to other professions, we're actually ahead of the game where the average age of cybersecurity professionals skews younger than it does in many professions, which means we are not going to be hit quite so badly when those baby boomers finally start to retire. Another very impressive marker of a cybersecurity professional is you are highly educated. 40% of the workforce has master's degrees. Very impressive. And then if we do look at educational focus, and I expect to see this change over time, currently and historically, predominantly people have come from a computer science background to move into cybersecurity, although we are starting to see some shifts in that we'll talk more about this morning. All right, and if we specifically look in Latin America, I see some really great news here too. I see that your growth of younger professionals coming into cybersecurity is significant. Notice the shrinkage of the number of boomers in the field. That is actually really great to see this, because that speaks to the sustainability of the cybersecurity profession within Latin America. We can also see a high number of individuals with bachelor's degrees and with master's degrees. So also very impressive. Still a little less so, but still predominantly people coming from a computer science background. And we certainly are never trying to discourage people coming from a computer science background, but what we will be looking at is the opportunity associated with looking at more diverse backgrounds coming into cybersecurity. All right, now this is where things start to get interesting. When we look at pathways into cybersecurity, we're starting to notice some shifts, and we're noticing age-based shifts, and we're noticing gender-based shifts. So let's start with the gender-based shifts. We're beginning to notice that the more females in cybersecurity are starting to come from backgrounds other than IT. So you can see 50% of males in cybersecurity came from an IT background, but only 38% of females. That's telling us there are opportunities to find people from other backgrounds, experienced backgrounds than just IT. The other thing that we have noticed, and this is a global phenomenon, is that women are more likely to pursue education first in moving into a cybersecurity career. So women are more likely to be pursuing degrees in cybersecurity and then move into their careers. And they are less likely to have been tapped on the shoulder before moving into their career, as opposed to have just explored cybersecurity careers and entered it on their own. That actually holds true for younger professionals as well. So then if we look at the age-based demographic, same thing. The older you are, the more likely you would have come from an IT background. And then again, the younger folks, just like the gender-based, skew to much more coming from a background other than IT. In fact, no longer is IT the majority way that people come into the profession. It's now less than 50%. We can see the transition into IT, that more people, or into cybersecurity, more people are actually starting in cybersecurity as opposed from starting somewhere else and moving into the cybersecurity field. Again, the younger folks are, the more likely they are to have pursued education first, or as one would imagine from the YouTube generation, more likely to have explored things on their own and then followed their dreams into a cybersecurity career. Another positive thing, and we've seen this sort of two ways, is we can see a huge increase in earnings potential based on if you are certified or not certified. So there is a great value in certification from an employer perspective of, I understand what this individual is able to demonstrate based on the certifications they hold. And as these results show, you can see that employers are willing to pay for individuals to have those certifications. In fact, more likely to pay for somebody based on their certifications than necessarily on an academic degree. And I would say one of the other things that we've noticed over the past 2 years is the world has really started to pay attention to the cybersecurity needs of their businesses, is the salaries for cybersecurity professionals have been going up and becoming far more competitive. All right, so this is going to be great because we are going to look at 2020, 2021 data, and then I'm going to be able to provide you a sneak peek at the 2022 data. So good news we had during the first year of the pandemic was that the size of the cybersecurity workforce grew from 3.48 million to 4.19 million, which was fantastic news. Just unbelievably fantastic news. Of course, the demand grew as well. So from 6.6 million to 6.91 million. But what actually was interesting about last year and a little bit surprising was the gap actually shrunk last year from 3.12 million in 2020 to 2.272 million in 2021. We actually believe, and our 2022 data is backing us up on what we said when we saw this last year. We believe the shrinkage during the pandemic was reduced demand was due to economic conditions, primarily in Asia, because Asia last year, the demand increased all over the world except for in APAC. And we believe that was because some economies in APAC were recovering more slowly from the pandemic. But any way you spin it, we still need to grow the workforce by 65% to just meet known demand. All right. And then when we look at this again in Latin America specifically, we estimated the workforce to be about 1.05 million in 2020 and a slight increase to 1.1 million in 2021. And then the demand for the workforce we saw grow last year, 1.58 million to 1.8 million. And the gap grew last year as well. So slightly better than the rest of the world, where you only needed to grow in Latin America by 61%, but still significant growth needed. And as I said, I can give you a sneak peek at the 2022 results, which have not even been published yet. And that shows that in Latin America, you've made progress. So something to be proud of. Estimating the size of the workforce this year at 1.23 million and the gap at about 0.52 million. So need to grow the workforce about by 43%, but that is impressive in your ability to have grow the workforce in 2021. Not the same thing that we're seeing around the rest of the globe. All right, so again, the gap is 26% less than last year. Some people say when you talk about the workforce gap, so what? What does it matter? And so we asked cybersecurity professionals to tell us, what does it matter if we have a workforce gap? Well, 67% of the individuals in our study say there is a cybersecurity staffing shortage at their organization. And they rate their risk accordingly because of that shortage. And you can see here 15% say because of our staffing shortage, we are at extreme risk. Another 45%, and I don't consider this insignificant at all, say that we are at moderate risk. So that's a full 60% saying we are at extreme to moderate risk because we don't have enough staff. So we dug a little bit deeper on this. And this is some of the stuff that we found. We found that people rate their risk significantly higher depending on how significant their staffing shortage is. So it actually logically makes sense that the more desperate you are for staff, the more risk your organization is going to face. And you can see those numbers here. All right, this is one of my favorite slides ever, and I'm going to show you 2021 versus 2022. Still need to dig deeper. Folks say they're at risk. How are they at risk? What happens when you don't have enough cybersecurity staff? And this is what folks tell us. We are misconfiguring systems. We don't have enough time for proper risk assessment and management. We are slow to patch critical systems. There are oversights in our process and procedures. The middle one on the bottom row is we don't have time to threat hunt at all. It's really, we're not threat hunting at all. That make you a little bit nervous when I said that? Makes me a little bit nervous when I say it. And then we're rushing deployments. And we all know what happens when you rush deployments is there are errors. There are errors, there are errors, there are errors. And when you put on top of that you might be misconfiguring systems and you have some oversights in process and procedures, it doesn't create a good environment. And we all know that these are exactly the same reasons that organizations report that they have data breaches, that they become victims to ransomware attacks. So the consequences are real. And in fact, I encourage you to take this data when you are trying to hire more cybersecurity professionals on your team. Use this data as examples of why it is critical to hire more people on your team. When we looked at the 2022 data, what happens a little bit different, but also really impactful. So what are their organizations experiencing because they don't have enough cybersecurity staff? The organization simply is not prioritizing security. We're not sufficiently training staff. And this is because this is going to become, I think we call it in the US a catch-22. This is going to become a problem. If we don't have enough cybersecurity staff, then you don't have enough staff to train new staff. And if one of our solutions is hiring entry and junior level professionals and training them, we need to have enough staff to be able to train the staff to help to build our workforce. They're also without enough cybersecurity staff, so there's not a lot of progression opportunities for individuals within business, which leads to higher turnover. And there's not enough resources within organizations being focused on training non-IT staff to deal with cybersecurity issues, because we all know that cybersecurity and the security of our information systems within our businesses can't just be the responsibility of the security team. It has to go throughout our businesses, that everyone has a role and a responsibility to keep the organization safe and secure. All right, so enough of the problem. It's time for us to close the gap. What are we going to do? Well, we could tell you from on high, this is what we suggest you do, but we actually said, profession, tell us what to do. And it's not, technology is not just the answer. Technology is part of the solution, but it is not just the answer. And we have heard that loud and clear from the cybersecurity profession. And they say, develop and retain existing staff. It's one of the primary things that you can do to help secure your workforce. Recruit and onboard new staff, encourage the development of staff, integrate, this goes to what we saw on the last slide, integrate security into all your existing business processes. So think of security by design before any project starts in your organization. Think security first. And then we start to talk about what are the opportunities to outsource or integrate artificial intelligence or machine learning or SaaS-based solutions into our cybersecurity solutions or ecosystem within our business. And diversity, equity, and inclusion, which will come up again, is also considered a big opportunity. And so this is what the profession said we need, and this is what they also said their organizations are doing. So organizations that are prioritizing security, they are investing in training, they are providing more flexible working conditions. Can't say for sure if I have another slide on this, but I will just tell you this. Cybersecurity professionals appreciate the opportunity to work remotely, and they like to have choice in the ways in which they work. I haven't met a cybersecurity professional who won't go into the office if there is a true need to go into the office. But when individuals are being told to come into office and there's no clear business purpose for why they're in the office, they're up to 30% of those individuals are starting to look for new jobs. So when you're thinking about retention, think about flexibility and working conditions. We also see that organizations are investing in certification and that they're investing in diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. This next one, I guess that's number 5 down the list. This is going to be key to the rest of our conversation here. We are starting to see organizations increasingly hire for attitude and aptitude of an individual and train for the technical skills. Lots of other great information in here. We'll be sure you have a PDF of these slides so that you can use these both for yourself and to make the case within your organization of investing in your security ecosystem. All right. And truly, to expand, we need to look at diversity, equity, and inclusion within the profession. And we are very broadly talking about diversity within the profession. We do talk about diversity in what people mostly go to and think of gender diversity, ethnicity. In some parts of the world, it's the language that you speak. But universally within the cybersecurity profession, the diversity barriers that are getting in the way of recruiting, retaining, and advancing staff are really around education and experience. People tend to want to hire individuals that come from the educational or experiential background that they came from. And we need to move past that. I'm not saying don't do it, but we need to move past that to solve the workforce gap that we have within the profession. Now, the good news is we have individuals telling us globally that their teams are more diverse than they were 5 years ago. 51% of individuals say, hey, my team's more diverse than it was 5 years ago. And so we consider that a good step forward, but we're going to need to see more. This is also sort of interesting. Now, this is global. We didn't have Latin America specific information, although I do believe I have some information. It might be Mexico related. I'm going to sort of go through my paper notes here and find this for you, that actually Latin America is doing better on the female side than some other parts of the globe. But what we're seeing is, this is gender-based, is we're seeing more women in Latin America, 34% of the market, as opposed to Ireland, which is 33%, Brazil, 17%. Overall, we estimate females in the cybersecurity profession to be 20 to 25%, but Mexico is leading the charge with the highest percentage of female cybersecurity professionals of which we are aware. And then when we look at where females are within the profession, the majority, we're seeing 10% of 50, let's say this differently, I apologize. 10% of C-level executives over 50 are only female. We see that number shoot up when we look at executives in their 30s. 35% of those are female. And then 17% of individuals in non-manager roles are females within the profession. And then when we look at it on a racial basis, 23% of C-level security executives are not white, but 47% of entry-level professionals are non-white. So we are beginning to see the diversification of the profession. What this doesn't show us is that we're retaining people over time. So we need to see the percentage of diversity in the executive level increasing. All right. And why are we not keeping people over time? And this is the first time we actually asked this question in 2022. So this is 2022 data. 30% of female and 18% of non-white employees worldwide say they feel discriminated against in the workplace. So that is something that we need to be actively addressing in the workplace, and frankly, just saying no to discrimination in the workplace. All right, some ideas. This came from our professionals of what can you do to help diversify cybersecurity, diversify your management and your hiring teams, practices. And there is truth to a adage we have that you cannot be what you cannot see. We've done research with diverse professionals in cybersecurity, and they say if they go into organizations and they don't see people like them in leadership positions, that they tell themselves the story that I can't be successful in this organization. And so we need to look at how we diversify our organizations, and on the road to doing that, we need to be sure that we're providing mentorship, even if it's informal, and support at all job levels. So that way people can see your true commitment to them and their future in your organization. 25% of individuals are saying establish specific organization diversity goals, mission, and values. On the bottom there, it comes up again, provide more flexible working conditions, eliminate pay and promotion gaps, put equity practices in place. Our diversity section of our website has some resources that can help you. How do I work through a pay equity review? How do I make my promotion decisions within my organization have a little less bias in that process? So I'm creating opportunity for all. All right, and then I've alluded to this, and now we're going to talk about very specifically, but don't just look for that right education and experience background that matches what you know to be successful. Hey, if you can find it, hire it, but really focus on looking for the right person. And how do you know who the right person is? We have actually found a lot of similarities, and my slides are out of order, of people who are successful in cybersecurity. This specifically is talking about when people say, I can't hire entry level, I'm going to challenge them. If we go back to what are the things that don't happen when we don't have enough cybersecurity staff, not all of those are super complex tasks. So what are the tasks that organizations are having entry-level professionals do? 35% are doing alert and event monitoring. 35% are documenting processes and procedures. Remember talking about processes and procedures a few slides ago? 29% are using scripted language within the organization. 28% are doing incident response, and 26% are doing reporting, developing, and producing reports. So there is work to be done by those entry-level professionals. And when you free up your more experienced professionals from doing this work, then they can do some of the more technical or sophisticated work that your organization needs. This is straight from a hiring manager say, when I hire entry-level people, they come to work with fresh ideas, things they may have learned while in school, new technologies that might not have hit the mainstream yet, but that employers are finding that hiring younger and entry-level professionals into their team is making a difference. And we know that cybersecurity also is all about problem solving. And the more diversity on your team, the more likely you are to bring a better set of solutions to the table and find better answers to the complex problems that you are facing. All right, so what are the traits that people are looking for hiring entry and junior level team members? So technical skills. People are looking for data security, cloud security, secure software development, data analysis, and security administration. So that's the technical skill set. Now I'm going to tell you, you can train for that. Great if you can hire it up front, but you can train for that. These next two columns are harder to train for. So top non-technical skills people are looking for: ability to work in a team, ability to work independently, project management experience, customer service experience because you are working throughout the organization, and presentation skills. So a lot of communication people skills we're seeing in here, and the project management skills. Now, this last column is something that when I'm presenting live and in person, I see lots of head nods. So what are those personality attributes folks are looking for? We want problem solvers. We want creative thinkers. We want analytical thinkers. We want people with the desire to learn, because we know that cybersecurity is dynamic and ever changing, and you have to be a lifelong learner to be successful in this field. And we want critical thinkers. So a lot of thinkers, and these folks aren't just coming from IT backgrounds. We're seeing folks come from all sorts of backgrounds. And when we talk to hiring managers, they tell us we are hiring people from all sorts of backgrounds. We are hiring people who were English majors in college. We are hiring people that are coming from science backgrounds. We're hiring people out of business schools. So another great thing to talk about with your team. Take this, talk about it with your team, see what they think. See what they think about the roles that entry-level people can do, and think about how you can incorporate that into your team. The other thing that I gotta address is we gotta stop searching for the all-star veteran recruits and focus on developing talent. And what this specifically speaks to, and it's sort of well known globally, are the number of organizations that are saying, okay, I need somebody with 1 year experience. They have to have a CISSP and. Well, I know you can't have a CISSP unless you have at least 5 years of experience. And while I would love everyone in the world to be a CISSP, that's not realistic. So yes, you might want to try to get that all-star talent onto your team, but really organizations are having more and more success when they hire entry level and train them. They're finding that in 6 to 8 months, they can get somebody up to speed and be working fairly independently. Although I will tell you that there are two really distinct camps as I talk to individuals. And those are the organizations that are hiring and investing in entry and junior level staff. And oftentimes more likely, but not exclusively, to be government, especially defense. The organizations are saying, nope, I gotta have highly qualified individuals. And if I can't have them, I don't want anyone. I think that's a little short-sighted. Let's play the long game here and develop people over time. Top skills to be developed over the next 2 years. Cloud computing is absolutely number one. We have so many people around the globe who hold tech-specific cloud certifications, AWS certifications, Azure certifications. And what businesses have realized, and the cybersecurity community has realized, is that we need people who understand the entire cloud ecosystem of our businesses. So cloud computing, I know that our CCSP certification, our cloud computing certification, is the one of, it's now been unseated, fastest growing certifications within our organization. And then you can see some of the other areas for skill development, risk assessment, analysis, management, which actually to some degree ties back to that slide of saying, what are we not doing enough of? We're not doing enough risk assessment when we don't have enough staff. So it doesn't surprise me that that's a growth area here. And then we start to look at and do see the things that we would expect to see about artificial intelligence, machine learning, because technology will be part of the solution. All right, top 5 places that organizations, how would you invest? How would you invest if you had enough cybersecurity professionals on your team? So imagine that blissful, perfect world where you have all the professionals you want. How would you invest? 50% of people said we'd spend more time on training and certifications. 49% said, you know what, we'd focus on the whole business and really increase security awareness training. I've been starting to say we need to raise the cyber literacy of all people. Then people start to talk about kind of ideal state. I start to look at what are my automated solutions? What is that tech that I can implement into my security ecosystem? Looking at cloud workload protection and access security. And then again, back to the people. People are really important in cybersecurity, professional and career development programs. So I love to see that. I love to see that. All right. When we asked, this is from our 2022 survey, when we asked folks about the need for professional organization and what are their employers requiring, 55% of respondents are required to gain a vendor-neutral cybersecurity certification. So that would be any of ISC squared certifications, but also, you know, some of our competitors. But so that vendor-neutral certification are, and those are more popular, more likely to be required than specific vendor-specific qualifications. Sort of a curiosity, and I believe there's great value in vendor-specific certifications as well, but sort of a curious thing that I've heard in talking to people is that they're finding people with vendor certs coming into their organizations. They know how to use tools, but they're not understanding the underlying rationale of what is the purpose of that tool and what are we achieving by doing this. So it's just something to think about and maybe not take for granted that somebody who has a certification actually understands what they're doing when they're, or knows how to use a tool, that understands what are they actually accomplishing when they use that tool. So if I were thinking about interviewing cybersecurity professionals, I would be thinking about what are the kinds of questions I want to ask in the interview process that can differentiate a candidate that knows how to use a tool, but versus actually knows the purpose behind the tool that they're using. This is sort of interesting. When HR and security teams fail to communicate, the result can be a lack of cybersecurity staff that's able to effectively prevent or troubleshoot security issues. So you can see that the better the communication, the more effective, and the worse the communication, the less effective. The recruiting, retention, advancement, teamwork that needs to happen between the security team and the HR team needs to become closer. It's not one team or the other's job to do it. They need to collectively do it to help build the kinds of teams that we need to have. All right, so a little bit as I come to a close here about what is ISC squared doing and what opportunities does it present to you. So we've been talking about the workforce gap for years. I've been in my role here as CEO of ISC squared for just under 2 years. And one of the first things I learned about was our workforce study, which is a phenomenal piece of work. This 2022 study is going to be the most phenomenal ever. But it was really stark and startling to me to learn that as much as we talked about the workforce gap, we weren't doing much about it. So we've decided to change that I hope you'll see from some of the information that I presented to you today. But we've also taken 3 really important pivotal steps in closing the workforce gap over the past year. 1, we created, and we heard this loud and clear from industry, we created an entry-level certification. So ISC squared certified in cybersecurity. That is our entry-level certification. Let me tell you what it does for you. It covers the basics in the key domains that employers have told us are important. And they've also said, if I'm going to hire somebody from a non-technical background, I want to understand that they know these 5 domains. And so that's what the certification does. We have education that teaches about the domains, and then we examine on the domains. And so an individual who has earned that certification, they're not going to walk into your company and be able to start doing a job. But what they've been able to do is demonstrate that they have the capability to learn and be trained and do well in a cybersecurity career. And then from the individual side, for somebody that says, hey, what's this cybersecurity stuff all about? Is this certification can give them validation that this might be a really good career path for them. So we consider it the first rung on the ladder, the first step in starting your cybersecurity career. And we know that industry trusts vendor neutral certifications, And this is doing that just for you. And again, we include our members, we include experts in the field every step of the way as we develop our qualifications and our examinations, and we're constantly reviewing and iterating to make sure it meets your demands. And then so I'll jump from that to the last column. And we are so committed to the importance of this and the importance of providing opportunity that we have publicly committed that over the next 5 years, we will create our 1 million certified in cybersecurity program. And that means we will give away the on-demand training and examination to 1 million individuals across the globe. I am happy to tell you that starting by the end of the year, the Spanish language version of both the education and the examination for 1 million certified in cybersecurity will be available. We're also translating it into a few other languages. This program has absolutely taken off. We have over 36,000 people who have indicated their interest in the program. We have over 12,000 people who've already signed up for their exam. And then we have a couple thousand people who have already passed their exams. So really a fantastic result, unlike anything we've ever seen in the organization and the profession before. So we're super excited. We're also seeing individuals coming from all over the globe. I do believe at the moment that Brazil is leading in Latin America, but really seeing people from a lot of diverse economies moving into this program, which is fantastic to see. So but that's not enough, because that's just one piece of the journey. In fact, it's the first step of the journey. And we also, as an organization, realize we need to be supporting people from the moment they start their journey. And so we created a new class of membership called AIC candidates, so that people who are interested for free for the first year, for people who are interested in cybersecurity careers and want to study toward their exams, they can sign up with us as a candidate, and then we can support them in their career progression. Everything from providing them discounted resources to exam prep, to helping them understand the choices they have and the paths they might be able to take in their careers. And what we're really hoping to be able to do is connect ISC² candidates with employers who are looking to hire. So with that, it has been a pleasure sharing some information with you, and I am going to be able to take questions in just a second. So sorry, I have this little thing that has come up on my deck here. And this is just one last slide about what is important to engage the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. 67% of folks under 30 say that emotional health was a greater priority for them than 5 years ago. So thinking about the well-being of your employees, 66% said that diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace is a driver for them. 58% are saying, hey, I have more of a voice in my organization than I did 5 years ago, and I like that. And 68% of dissatisfied individuals in the workplace are saying that culture can either have a hugely positive effect on their work experience and their willingness to say, but that if the culture is negative within their organization, they're going to leave. So interesting results that we were able to share with you today. And with that, I'm going to stop and take questions. So thanks so much for spending time with me this morning, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Clar, for such a great presentation. And I would also like to thank ISCC² for conducting this workforce study. it was a lot of insights that you shared with us, and thank you very much for sharing this with us. Even the some results that you presented in advance of the 2022 study.
Yeah. Well, thank you, David. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. And maybe I got in a little bit of trouble with the communications team, but it just seemed that with the new study coming out soon, that was the right thing to do to share some of the current results. And may I say, I applaud Mexico for leading and having the most women, according to our survey, working in their cybersecurity workforce. It was one of my favorite statistics.
Well, that's something that we noticed here, but I didn't have the data to support it. But yes, we've seen lots of women coming into the workforce. Clar, I have a few questions for you. And the first one comes from Andres Almanza. He's from Colombia. And he's asking, to close the cybersecurity gap, do we need more people or reskilling and discovery of new potential professionals?
So I think it's a little bit of both, right? So we do need to attract new professionals into the field, but there's also a tremendous opportunity to reskill people who have had adjacent careers and move them into the field. And while I said in my presentation, there are people recruiting English majors, but we do see a lot like internal auditors, people who are maybe in the risk management function of the organization that's not cyber, people even on the legal teams, lots of different people that if you look at, I had the slide that talked about the technical skills, but also talked about the kind of the personality characteristics and non-technical skills. If you see people with those skills, have them give cybersecurity a try. And one of the things that I've found that's really an interesting practice in cybersecurity is a lot of time people are working in cyber on a fractional basis. And so, especially within your own organizations, you could try somebody out maybe on a project, both for you as the employer to say, hey, is this person going to be a good fit for my team? But also to introduce the dynamic, wonderful world that a career in cybersecurity is.
Okay, so this workforce study focuses on people that want to enter the cybersecurity profession or is already there. But what about IT guys? What about the IT people? Is there something in that study that tells us what happens when IT people want to learn cybersecurity? Not to jump over, but to stay in IT and do their job securely?
Yeah, so really, thank you for asking that. That's a really important concept. So from two perspectives, so not the jump over, because the jump over from IT is the traditional way for decades that we've moved people into cybersecurity roles. But what you talk about, and I've actually been talking about with government leaders around the globe about this, is we need to lift the cyber literacy of all people. So like my mother, who's 83 years old, we need to make her smarter. But more importantly, we need to also focus on people in critical adjacent roles. And so the people in critical adjacent roles, I think first and foremost are IT professionals. So we really need to make sure that they understand what is important and what they need to be doing to securely provision. And even things as simple as if you're in a smaller organization without a cyber team, help IT professionals there understand how important it is that you immediately apply those critical patches and that you actually do it well. And, in my perfect nirvana world, that they also think about security in the future as they are developing new systems and they're thinking about the architecture of their technology and they're implementing new software tools. So absolutely right on.
Well, yes, that's a nirvana kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're still there's a bit of a gap in there. Clar, at the start of your talk, you talked about ISC Square being a global advocate for cybersecurity. Could you elaborate, please, a little bit more on that?
Sure. So, we have the great benefit of having members in 175 countries. And so, one of the initiatives that we've undertaken through the leadership of our board of directors and our executive team is to say, we need to more proactively understand what governments around the world are doing about when they think of cybersecurity, because for no other reason, yes, it's an economic issue for a country, but it's also a national defense issue. And so governments worldwide are paying attention to their cyber defenses, the cyber workforce, and in many instances, then making decisions about, in some countries, who should we license in the cybersecurity realm. Singapore recently put a scheme in place where they're licensing pen testers. But there's the UK has a plan for 16 different roles in cybersecurity to create a licensing scheme. And so what we do is, one, we're monitoring that for you so that you can know what's going to happen in your country. And if something does happen and you have questions, that we can help answer those questions. But we also have an opportunity, because we're talking to these governments around the world, to help them in the sharing of best practices and maybe think of the problems they're trying to solve from a way that really makes sense from the experts in the profession, as opposed to, I'll say this nicely, but sometimes people can be a little reactive and maybe put a law in place that long-term isn't solving the problem they think it's solving. And so we help to provide the perspective of the profession that says, these are the best practices we see. This is what we hear from the member community about what makes sense. And like one example I would give is a lot of governments are thinking about how they mandate reporting of cyber incidents. And, there's times when, yes, maybe sharing that information rapidly, if you're in critical infrastructure, makes sense. But there's other times when maybe it doesn't make so much sense. So we're helping to navigate that.
That's very interesting. Your 1 million, program caught my eye, and so how do you qualify if you want to apply and have free on-demand training and exam?
Well, we would like to believe that you're a real human being to qualify. There is no barrier to entry. This is the absolute beauty of it. We already have, even between yesterday morning or 2 mornings ago when I recorded this and today, we have even more people that have signed up. So we already have about 40,000 people who've signed up globally, and we're only 2 weeks into it, which is fantastic. Anyone can go to our website, isc2.org. They can sign up and register. And what you do is you first register as an ISC Squared candidate. And then once you're a candidate, you will get access to the free on-demand course. And then you'll be given information about how you can sit the exam. Now, I would say it's available only in English right now, but the online learning and the examination will both be available in Spanish before the end of the year. So if somebody wants to wait a little while, you can wait, or you can try the English and then try the Spanish. But we're so excited about it, because even if all the people who go through the program don't go on to become cybersecurity professionals, we think it's going to help with raising that cyber literacy of a lot of people, and we need that to happen.
Thank you, Clar. I think time's up, but I would like to give you the opportunity to just give us your closing remarks, please.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for inviting me to be with you. The work all of you do each and every day is so valuable and so important. And I really do believe that together we can create a more safe and secure cyber world, and we will close that workforce gap. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here, Clar. And thank you, friends, for following this transmission. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Take care. Bye.
Tenemos más contenido como este para ti, pero antes te invitamos a inscribirte a nuestro canal y activar las notificaciones. Si te ha gustado este video, no olvides darle like y compartirlo con otras personas. También puedes guardarlo para el futuro o dejarnos un comentario, nos dará gusto leerte. El Consejo Sí es una asociación civil enfocada en elevar la seguridad de la información y ciberseguridad en la escala nacional. Conoce más de nosotros y de lo que podemos ofrecerte visitando el sitio web consejosí.org.